Good evening. Good evening, everyone. If everyone could take their seats, we can get started. Oh, never mind. Some have standing room reserved. Okay, great. Thanks. Well, welcome to the March 18th meeting of the Half Moon Bay City Council. We will start with a roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Here.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Here.
Councilmember Penrose?
Here.
Vice Mayor Reddick?
Here.
Mayor Brownstone?
Here.
We have a quorum.
Thank you. I ask that we now stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. I would like to first announce that we've removed item 3B, which is, let me just read the right item, 3B, award construction contract for the Frenchman's Creek Park Improvements Project. We've removed it because we needed a little extra time to sort out some of the grant numbers, so we're moving that to our April 1st meeting. So with that said, I'd like to move that we approve the agenda.
So moved.
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
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 Anyone against? So moved. Okay. Well, as you can see, we have some guests here tonight with happy news. Tonight we welcome the Half Moon Bay girls varsity basketball team to honor and recognize them for their historic season. On March 11th, the girls won the Northern California Championship game, a first in program history. This qualified them for the CIF State Finals in Sacramento, also a first in program history, and the first time a Northern California public school has qualified since 1992. Congratulations to the 2025 Half Moon Bay High School girls varsity basketball team and Coach Megan Smith on your historic season.
All right, so this is an awesome year so far for Half Moon Bay sports. So I am going to read out your names, and if you want, you can come up, grab it from me, and then I'm going to invite you to stand over here where we'll take a group photo with the city council and anyone else who wants to come in. So starting off, we have Gabe Glynn. Gabe Glynn. Thank you. Chloe Harrington. Of course. Lindy Villalobos. Sydney Mendez. Ayla Grierson. Of course. Sarah Lockhart. Of course. Paige Haberman. Got the honor carrying the trophy. McKenna Glynn. Sochi Nieves. Delaney Dorwin. Emma Mendez. Stella Fisher. Do you want me to just hand it to someone over there? I got it. Okay. Thank you. Jade Villalobos. Zoe Limoges. Nice. Megan Smith. Another big round of applause. All right, council, if you want to go ahead and stand over here, we'll take a group photo with our peeps.
Okay. Great. Next on our agenda this evening, Scott will give us an update report from the Mid-Coast Community Council.
Hey, thanks for having me over. I'm Scott again from the Mid-Coast Community Council, and just in review, we are an advisory council to the Board of Supervisors in San Mateo, representing Montera, Moss Beach, the Harbor, El Granada, and Miramar. So this evening, I have some information, a couple of upcoming events, and one special offer for you guys. So we all know that parking along Route 1 and a new parking lot in the Berman Strip that's associated with the harbor and the development of the Berman Strip are is kind of worrisome to the community due to lack of parking and the development of the area. And so there's a lot of different organizations that are involved in this. And one of the things the MCC is trying to do is trying to get them all together to talk to each other. Caltrans, the harbor, us, and in particular, the Half Moon Bay Council, because you do have some skin in the game up there too, because you know the way the lines between incorporated and unincorporated kind of loop around SAMs. So you guys are going to be impacted also. But our goal is to try to get everyone to talk together to make the best decision for the community. I have three upcoming attractions. The first one is the first public presentation of CAL FIRE risk maps that are going to be presented at our March 26th meeting, and those are going to be the first time that our community is going to see those maps. And they're going to finish reviewing them that day and then present it to us. So if you're interested, please come to that meeting. Our first meeting in April is going to be all about stormwater, and we're going to finally take a look at the product, the stormwater report that we've been working on for quite a long time, and then we're going to decide whether we're going to support it or not. And that's going to be on April 9th, and that's our first meeting in April. Later on in the spring, we're going to have presentations from the RCD and a presentation on Ox Mountain, which is the dump up there on 92. So my last thing that I'd like to talk to you about is a special offer. So I would like to extend an invitation to all or one of you to come and give us a report at our MCC meeting. So the 2nd and 4th of the month, we meet, and we'd like to hear an update from you guys if you're interested. So it's really easy. You can do it, come in person, or do it as a Zoom. It's very easy to find our Zoom meetings. You would just go to the midcoastcommunitycouncil.org and click on the agenda button, and there will be a link to our Zoom meeting. And so I would love to see you at some time in the future.
Sure.
Talked to Julie and Paul Shankman about their parking situation, or they brought it forward to me, because that's a big concern for them at
Yes.
the Sam's, and that's a big concern I think, for us too, just because I think they're on the Half Moon Bay side. I mean, everybody's concerned about it.
Yeah.
But they brought it forward to me, and I think we really should try to work with that, because that bike lane is really going to disrupt their parking. I know if there's an answer, or appropriate answer, I don't know yet. I don't know what the development is, because I think they're going to do a bike lane, and that's going to turn, so you can't park on the highway at all.
So that's Caltrans.
Or that's Caltrans, but
Yeah.
they will be impacted because of that.
Yes,
They
and
made it
then-
very clear to me.
Over there, there's also the area where there's the skateboard ramp and people park there. There's gonna be no parking there also.
Right.
And a new parking area associated with the harbor on the east side of one at the north part of the Burnham Strip. So there will be another parking lot over there, which is quite far from where people want to access the beach and go surfing.
Right.
And so people will try to cross one there probably just by running across the highway as they do. And there are concerns about traffic disruption and safety with respect to that also. So it would be great if all those parties could talk to each other.
Yeah, we'll have staff take a look at that and feel which pieces impact Half Moon Bay. Great, thank you.
Thank you. See ya. See you next time.
Thanks, Scott. We will now have an update on Seton Coastside.
Good evening, members of the council. My name is Aman Duper. I am one of the healthcare executives, and I am the person managing the current Seton Coastside reconstruction project. And I am here to present on behalf of the hospital. With me, I have Sarkis Vartanian, the CEO Administrator for the hospital, and Tim Schultz, he is the Associate COO for the hospital. I have a few pictures I would like to show you, and then maybe towards the end, give you a brief narration of where we currently stand with our progress, what are some of the challenges that we are currently facing, and when do we actually anticipate sort of reopening the campus, or the campus does need to be completely relicensed. It is subject to a complete relicensing survey. It does have a significant amount of code required work that needs to be done. For example, we discovered recently with the help of the fire department that when Seton Coastside was built, it was not built with the fire hydrants. And as you are aware, we are surrounded by quite a bit of greenery at Seton Coastside. And so the fire department does make a recommendation that we should have a minimum of 3 fire hydrants on the campus, which we are going to be working with the North County Fire Department in getting that established over a period of time. Any of these matters that I bring up today are just some of the challenges that we currently face. They are by no means any excuse to delay the reopening of the building. And so I just wanted to come out here and present to you what we are dealing with, what are some of the existing conditions. I think some of you have been out to Seton Coastside and you have seen the kind of work we are doing. We have successfully completed the entire roof replacement project. The roof is absolutely brand new. It was completely in its entirety replaced. We are currently in process of re-establishing the or reinstalling all the HVAC units. Many of the heating and cooling units were completely crippled and were non-functioning after the storm, and so we had to replace them. And there are some of the long lead items that we had to deal with. But nevertheless, what's being projected up on the screen is the image at the time when Seton Coastside was operating, but it was damaged. So as you can see, the green roof up on the mansard that we call it, it's been completely replaced. The white sign has been completely removed. Of course, the parking lot has been completely paved because a good portion of the parking lot was we had a mudslide and it had swept away a little bit off to the hillside. Next slide, please. This is some of the work that we had done. So we were required to put in all new electrical lines. Much of our electrical lines underground had been damaged due to the water intrusion. So on the left-hand side, you see the brand new gutters and the electrical lines and the new light poles that were installed. We did have a blackout during the storms, and we'd had quite a bit of struggle with transporting the patients in and out of the campus, which made it quite difficult. So we did conduct a significant amount of repairs on the exterior. On the right-hand side, there used to be a small house, which was called the engineering building. It was completely damaged, and we had to basically bring it down to the ground. What you see right behind the dirt is the retaining wall. That retaining wall did not exist prior to it. We had a fence which had completely collapsed and fallen, and with a lot of trees that were fallen on the backside of the hill, which is an easement on the other side, we had a significant amount of mudslides. So we worked with our geotechnical surveyors and our civil engineers to establish a strong boundary wall so we don't have these issues again, and weather-related storms do not end up damaging the building in the future. Next slide, please. This is when we were building the retaining wall, so I just wanted to show you that we did follow every building code that was required, and we didn't just find somebody and just poured a bunch of concrete. We actually did it the right way. So we just wanted to sort of demonstrate the work that we completed. These are some of the pictures of our existing conditions that we were dealing with. You see the wooden fence that had collapsed that was housing the 2 water tanks. These 2 water tanks are primarily the only sprinkler systems we have in the building because we don't have any fire hydrants. In case of a fire, we would not be able to respond once those 2 fire tanks are completely emptied out with water. Much of those tanks were totally damaged. The controls and the electronics, there was water intrusion in them, and much of it were damaged. And on the right-hand side was one of the break rooms where the water intrusion happened. And of course, on the left-hand side, there's some pictures of some of the areas that are in pretty bad condition. Next slide, please. Some of the other work that you can see, we had significant amount of damages with the furniture. On the left-hand side, you see a lot of furniture sitting outside. This picture basically shows the old green mansard by the roof and the blue mansard on the left, which is the brand new roof that we installed. And then on the right-hand side, extreme right picture is when we had to asbestos abate all the areas that were impacted because the building had significant amount of asbestos in its concrete as well as in its drywall. So next slide, please. On the left-hand side is the picture with the house that we talked about that we demolished. Behind it, you see there's a lot of trees. This is as and when the storms actually happened. And on the right-hand side, you can see the walk-in cooler. That's where the water came in from the roof and from the rains and damaged a significant amount of our kitchen. And we lost significant amount of our food in the walk-in cooler due to a lot of damages that happened at the building. Next slide, please. Some of the other side pictures of some of the backyard work and a lot of equipment that got damaged and we had to immediately remove because we are a clinical occupancy. We are also classified as an acute care hospital. Even though the building was primarily used as a skilled nursing facility, it is classified as an acute care hospital. So we do have to follow every building code per the hospital building code and not as a skilled nursing building code because there are relaxed codes for skilled nursing long-term care facility versus a hospital. Seton Coast site primarily was utilized as a skilled nursing facility with a standby ER, but in the eyes of the government, in the eyes of the licensing body of Seton, it is licensed as a level 1 acute care hospital, OSHPOD 1 as we call it, OSHPOD 1 acute care hospital. Hence the reason why we had to operate and we had to mitigate all the damages that we suffered as an acute care hospital and not as a skilled nursing facility. Next slide, please. This is some of the areas that you can see the extent of damage. On the left-hand side, you can see some of the walls when we took it out. A significant amount of mold and growth was discovered. So we had to appoint an industrial hygienist to come out and review the facility. An independent report by an industrial hygienist was created, and it was further enhanced, which not only captured a significant amount of damage, but also it captured a significant amount of growth behind the drywall, the wood structure, everywhere else. On the right-hand side, the bigger picture is actually the nurses' station. So the building is actually spread out in 4 parcels. There's hallway 100, there's hallway 200, 300, and 400. And the nurses' station sits right in the middle. And the water came in right from the middle of the nurses' station on the top, where you see the plastic up on the ceiling. And it actually came all the way down, which completely crippled our nurses and our clinical team to be able to work in the most clean or a hygienic fashion. Next slide, please. This is a close-up of the previous picture that I showed it to you. Next slide, please. This is the activity room where the water came in, and much of the carpentry work and much of the cabinetry work had to be removed. Next slide, please. So the 3 slides before, I showed you a picture where we had abated all the floors. This used to look like a PT rehab. As you can see, this used to be the rehabilitation department in the hospital. The carpet was completely damaged. The cabinetry, the walls, the ceilings, everything around it was completely damaged. And I showed you the picture after abatement. I'm showing you what existed at the time when the hospital was operating. And towards the end, in the future slides, I will show you what it currently looks after the remedial work has been completed. Next slide, please. This is the exterior part of the building. On the left-hand side, this is the clinical lab that used to be in the building where the water came in, and we had to remove a lot of cabinetry, and a lot of carpentry work had to be completely redone. Next slide. On the left-hand side, that's how the nurses' station used to look like. I showed you the abated version of it when this was completely demolished and removed, but this is when the hospital was operating. This is how the carpentry work used to look like. And on the right-hand side, it's a significant amount of damage with the mattresses, beds, bed frames, low air loss mattresses, sequential pumps, IV pumps. Our X-ray machine, which was fixed in the building, was completely removed as part of the damage. Our significant amount of medical equipment had to be completely discarded because it was no longer usable. Next slide, please. Just some of the different pictures. Next. 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 So this is the completed work. This is how the patient rooms are going to look like. On the left-hand side, you see a lot of tile work that we did. A significant amount of reason why we chose a tile versus completing drywall is amount of moisture we have in the atmosphere here. So you see the crispiness on the walls, you see it on the back wall there. And what ends up happening is, due to the moisture, we end up having plaster and paint bubbling up. And that is a significant concern because that would have mold growth in the future. So we wanted to make this building as future-proof as possible. We also wanted to make sure that this does not repeat again. So as part of replacement of the roof, all the interior repairs have been completely done under the supervision of a California licensed designed architect, California licensed designed electrical engineer, California designed mechanical engineer, and California designed and licensed plumbing engineers. All the specialties were carefully appointed, and each one of those areas were carefully reviewed, and we did get the permits from the state authorities called OSHPOD or HCI. to be able to get to the level where we are at today. So we are not just putting a Band-Aid on a building. We are trying to conduct the repair in its entirety, because we had water get into the electrical panels, our nurse call systems, our TVs, our beds, our mattresses, our floors, our windows, the entire yards. So that's the kind of a work that we are actually formally completing. Next slide, please. This is, on the left-hand side, this is the new hallway. This is how the hallways currently look. We did tile up about 4.5 feet on the wall, and we did have brand new flooring in the hallway with all new electrical work. The entire fire alarm system is being completely upgraded. The entire nurse call system and patient communication system is being completely upgraded and modernized. And so all emergency response systems will be completely integrated with the local fire and police department in case of any emergencies. Next slide, please. On the left-hand side, that's the admitting department. On the right-hand side, it's the cafeteria, which has now been fully completed. Next slide. This is the other patient room that we are currently in process of completing. Next slide, please. This is the completed parking lot. Next slide, please. This is when we were actually building the parking lot. Next slide, please. Oh. So we wanted to compress as much as possible. We didn't want to take a whole lot of time from the City Council, but it would be my request and it would be an honor that I understand that the City Council would need to come in small pieces, but it would be my request and my honor on behalf of Seton Medical Center, HMC Healthcare, that now that we have completed approximately 80 to 90% of the work on the interior side, we would be delighted to host you for a brief tour. I understand that you would need to come in small pieces or small parcels of people, but we would be delighted to host you. I am personally there Monday to Friday, and I am happy to schedule it. The building is not open to general public at this moment of time because we still have a significant amount of ceilings that are open, and it is not safe for people to just wander around. So we are offering the vested key partners in the community to come out and at least see the work that we have completed. The only delay at this moment of time that is beyond our control is basically the emergency generators that have long lead items. Our current emergency generator was unstable and it actually had failed. So we were actually hit with 2 storms, and I don't know how much detail the community has, but we were hit with the primary storm in 2023, and then we were hit with a second storm in 2024, which led to the complete evacuation of the building in 2024. In 2023, it was only a partial evacuation of the building. When the trees fell, the structure of the building was compromised and the roof was damaged. But the significant amount of damage also took place in 2024, which basically made it extremely hard for us to move things around to be able to conduct the necessary repairs. And so we are hoping, we are anticipating that we will complete everything by end of spring and give you a beautiful, perfect building to come and seek services. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, and thanks for the invite. Councilmember Penrose would like to ask you a question.
Wonderful presentation. I did the tour with you earlier this year or last year, late last year, I think. At any rate, it's amazing the work that you've done. It looks really, really good, and it just feels like it's being done the correct way, all the way from the floor to the ceiling. It's all good. I had a couple of questions, and they have to do with the rest of the hospital. Can you give us some idea of how many emergency room beds there are and how many urgent care beds that you plan to put in?
So urgent care is something I probably would not be able to talk much in detail because it's currently still being considered and reviewed and being talked and discussed internally at a managerial level, and as well as with some of the key partners in the community like Dignity Health. But I can give you the bed count, and basically I want to, what's the best way to put it? The building is going to be completely restored exactly with the same bed counts that it was before it will shut down. So 116 beds for skilled nursing, 5 acute care beds or general acute care beds that it existed, 7 ER bays that it existed. In fact, it's going to be 8 ER bays. We were able to expand to 1 more, but 7 when it was closed. And the other side of the wing, so we have created, well, we didn't create it. When the building was built in the 60s and the 70s, the ER where it existed a year ago did not exist originally. The ER existed where the X-ray equipment was. And where the current ER was used to be the surgical department. And over the years, organically, somehow, with all the different previous ownerships, ER was relocated to the surgical area. So we are actually restoring the ER back to its original location, but we are also having additional 4 beds available in the so-called urgent care area, as we would mark it. So 7 to 8 ER bays where it currently is, plus additional 4 urgent care rooms, as we would call it, on our building design plan. So the building is going to have more services and more capabilities when it opens, and would have more advancement available with this new structure available.
Thank you.
Thanks for coming this evening and doing the presentation. Appreciate it.
Thank you. I don't get out much, but thank you so much.
I have no announcements of community activities and community service. Could we please have a report out from a recent closed session meeting?
Thank you, Mayor, Council, Community. The Council did meet in closed session at 5:30 to discuss 2 items. One was conference with legal counsel regarding existing litigation, the case of Vidovich versus City of Half Moon Bay. And the second item was conference with real property negotiators regarding price and terms of a potential lease agreement at 555 Kelly. Nothing to report out. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up, we have city manager updates on Earth Day, Nonprofit Day, and Student Awards, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have one additional one, but it'll be a very quick announcement. So first, we'll hear from Julissa Acosta from the City Manager's Office.
Good evening, Council. I'm excited to invite you all and the rest of the community and our nonprofit partners to the first ever Nonprofit Day on the coast. We're hosting this event to expose our nonprofits, expose them to the community so they can share their services, programming, recruit maybe volunteers, and recruit if they have any job openings. We're also invited some philanthropy partners. We're hoping that they can come and meet some of our nonprofits just to engage. The event will happen on Saturday, April 5th at in this location from 11 a.m. to 2 p.m. And we have about 16, 17 nonprofits already signed up. So we're very excited to host everybody and see what can happen out of this. Next slide, please. The next update I have for you is the Leadership and Sustainability Awards. Application period is now open. We have 2 different buckets of opportunities for our students. One is through sustainability that is put together by the Department of Public Works and Republic Services. There's 2 awards of $500 to high school students, and they have to submit an essay with a prompt that is given to them related to sustainability. This year we're focusing on transportation. And the other bucket is leadership, and that is for students from 8th grade to 12th grade, different prices for the different ages, 5 altogether for outstanding leadership service to the community. And so applications close on April 18, so we encourage every student, every parent, every teacher out there to talk to their students and have them apply. Thank you. And the last update I have for you is the Stone Pine Cove applications have opened already. They opened up yesterday afternoon. The city hosted the county Department of Housing and Office of Community Affairs at the library to hold a community meeting where they disclose information about the application process, where to go, how to do it. There's a QR code on the screen for folks they can scan. We have information on the city's website, housing page, and also folks can apply by logging into snc.gov housing/Stone Pine Cove. Applications can be submitted via online through Doorway, and it takes about 7 minutes to do the pre-screening application. Also, folks can submit their applications on paper, and they have to be mailed or received by the agency no later than April 18. Everybody's welcome to apply. The requirements that they have is you have to be a farm worker, you have to live and work in the county for at least a year, and you have to be a first-time home buyer. I'm happy to share more details, and you'll hear more from this project, but we're excited to let the community know that applications have now opened. In fact, the county is hosting a similar meeting in Pescadero right now at the school to let the community in Pescadero know that the applications are open now. So that's it. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thanks,
Julissa.
Julissa. Are there any questions for Julissa?
Any questions for Julissa?
I have one. Quickly, are the nonprofits, are these strictly local nonprofits? Or
Yes.
are they?
Yes, we invited previous CSFA participants, organizations. We also reached out to Mavericks Community Foundation, who manages the Coastside Gives fundraising event, and they also reached out on their behalf. We've reached out to our faith leaders, again, to expose everybody. And the goal is to elevate our local nonprofits and expose them to philanthropic, opportunities out there.
One last question is, how do we typically market that nonprofit event?
We place a radio ad. We've been advertising it through our e-news. We did one-on-one outreach or more targeted outreach to the different providers. And I think that's it, right? Did we do it?
Yeah, we're also relying heavily on the nonprofits themselves to share with their communities. It's, like she said, it's in our e-news. We'll do a special one to go out to all of our lists. I'm going to be tapping all of our former NET participants, as this has always been an interest of theirs. And just currents. Oh yeah, currents. Okay. It'll be in currents. Will be hitting mailboxes within the next 7 to 10 days.
Great. Thanks a lot. Appreciate that.
Thank you.
Okay. And then our final CM update will be Helen Walter from our Public Works Sustainability team.
Good evening, Honorable Council, Mayor, and community members. Helen Walter from Sustainability to present on the upcoming Earth Day events so that folks can save the date. We're about a month out. But we want to make sure that we celebrate our community and our efforts to build resiliency and what we can do to make our lives better on the coast. We've combined some programming to highlight everything that's going on. We are starting out on the actual Earth Day, April 22nd, with a Coastside Earth Day resource fair at the library from 3 p.m. until 7 p.m. We have approximately 15 community groups and agencies, plus the library tabling. The groups that are coming include the state parks, Sea Hugger, Peninsula Clean Energy, excuse me, Coastside Land Trust, Mid-Penn Regional Open Space, County Office of Sustainability, among others. The Parks and Rec Department will be offering kid activities, some sort of green kid activity to make it a family-friendly after-school event. Then we're following up that following Saturday with Recycling Day. Once again, we will be offering from 9 a.m. to 12 p.m. at Smith Field, e-waste, recycling, paper shredding, and compost giveaway. Also, save the date. It's not on the slide. We didn't have space, but household hazardous waste is not offered this week because of the county resources locally, but save the date, June 28th, there will be household hazardous waste on the coast, which we get once a year from the county, which we appreciate. And then the following Sunday, we have Surfrider is hosting, and we are partnering with them for beach cleanup. keep our beaches clean, and we are encouraging participants to bring their own gloves, grabbers, or buckets. And carpooling is also recommended and encouraged. Lower your emissions, and parking spaces are limited. But we do provide parking permits that day because it is at Poplar Beach. The last event that we're hosting and partnering with our partners is Coastal Wildflower Day. It's at Venice State Beach from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. Sunday, and that's with state parks. It's a great event for the whole family, and this year's theme is planting seeds for a vibrant future. I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
Any questions from council?
Repeat the date for the household hazardous waste.
Absolutely. June 28th. So the county, if you do ever have household hazardous waste, and that's paint or old cleaning products or old motor oil, the county, you can make an appointment and take it over the hill as well during the week. But we don't have very many on the coast, so I wanted to make sure to let you know that that is coming.
Great, thank you.
Happy to help. Thank you.
Thank you.
Yeah.
We are now going to open public forum. And again, public forum is for addressing anything you'd like to address to the council that's not agendized on the regular agenda. So anything except that. And each speaker will have 3 minutes. They'll get a 2.5-minute warning on the timer and then a final warning when 3 minutes is up. Okay, start with Joaquin Jimenez.
Good evening. Can you hear me? Yep. Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. It's good to be here once again. I was going to share what Julissa shared with you about yesterday. Yesterday was a big day in Half Moon Bay, especially for Farm Market community. We really put a dent on the need of housing in our community. 46 units, or probably house a little bit over 100 people. With the need of housing that we have here in the coast, including Pescadero for Farm Market community, essential workers, the cycle, we need 480 units. We are looking forward to the spot right here at the corner of 555 Kelly, to be available for our senior farm workers, the ones that are getting ready to retire, the ones that are actually struggling right now, and it's going to be a while. It is hard to think about, that our retiring senior farm workers, might not be around by the time, 555 is built. It is unfortunate. I know senior farm workers, retired senior farm workers, that are staying in somebody's couch, somebody's garage. It is difficult to think, and that's it's sad, to think about what we have in our community and how, members of our community have actually, pushed back against housing. From different walks of life, we have pushed back against housing. The struggle of housing in our community is real. It is unfortunate that people that say that care about people, about others, are pushing back on housing. It's probably one of the most hypocrite things you could think about. When you say you care about people, you care about how they live, But then again, you're pushing against it to give them a decent place to live, the opportunity, the hope, la esperanza, to give them a place to live. Remember, we also need saving, but we also need a place to rest our heads. Thank you.
Thank you, Joaquin. Our next speaker is Naomi Judy Shintani. I can't.
Linda wants.
Oh. Sure. Linda Miller, please. Thank you.
Linda, go ahead.
Sorry,
You can go.
Linda B. Miller. Got it. Didn't read the handwriting correctly. Thank you.
Is this okay? Okay. I'm Linda B. Miller, an artist in Half Moon Bay. And today I'm speaking for Jennifer Clark, who couldn't be with us due to an illness. Jennifer schedules the vendors and makers market for the Makers Marketplace and runs the Kids Space art projects at Make It Main Street, Half Moon Bay. She has been gearing up for our Make It Main Street kickoff and the Asian American Pacific Island celebration on Thursday, May 1st. It has just come to her attention that the city has not yet committed to blocking off Kelly Avenue for the events for this year. I am here to appeal to you to support the Make It Main Street Community Arts Program by continuing to permit the use of McDutra Park, Kelly Avenue, providing barricades between Main Street and Johnston, and putting up banners along Main Street. Make It Main Street is not asking for direct monetary support for 2025. What we need is, Make It Main Street receives support from paying vendors, grants, local community donations, and volunteers. Make It Main Street offers a platform for local writers in McDutra Park, various musician performances, nonprofit artisan vendors, and an unrestricted educational kids space arts project from May to October on the first Thursday of each month. The fair address is multicultural and multi-generational audience by presenting various programs with monthly themes. In 2024, Make It Main Street received 2 awards, one from the county for its community services to the arts. People who visit the Make It Main Street Marketplace and the Kids Space Free Educational Arts Program always comment on how wonderful it is to have a city that supports the arts in that way. It is good for our community, and it is good for the local artisans. So please allow it to continue by allowing us to use Kelly Avenue and McDutra Park. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Okay, now, well, there's 2 other people on this topic. One's Victoria Comack, and the other,
This is Judy. Judy Shintani.
and then Judy Shintani. Do you have a preference? Either way is great.
Thank you for having this forum for us to talk about Make It Main Street. Thank you. I'm Naomi Judy Shintani. I'm a Half Moon Bay artist and organizer and curator. And last year I organized the first Asian American Pacific Islander Heritage Month celebration. And that was triggered for me by the shootings that happened. And so that was in honor of them and to create an event of that was healing and a celebration of Asian culture. So So in addition to an exhibit and a workshop I had in my own studio, I worked with Make It Main Street organizers to bring poets and Chinese lion dancers, as well as taiko drummers, to Mekdudra Park. And we even had our former mayor, Naomi Patridge, spoke about her family history and the incarceration during World War II. The Chinese Senior Center Choir performed, and we had origami and lantern making activities to introduce Asian cultures in the art space. So people came from all over the coast side, as well as from Oakland and San Francisco, bringing revenue to the restaurants and to the stores. So this year, we're very excited to organize the second annual Asian Pacific Islander Heritage Month, and which is scheduled for May 1st, as you heard. I've already had it listed on the San Francisco Asian Pacific Islander Cultural Center calendar, which reaches thousands of people in the Bay Area. And this year, I got a grant, so I'm donating 1/3 of my grant to supporting the performers that will be happening on Making It Main Street. And I'm also collaborating with another funder to offer 3 free Make It Main Street classes at the fair. So we're very excited to keep going with this project. It's the first of the Make It Main Street events, and since it's May 1st, we kind of would appreciate having a quick approval of the things that we talked about earlier. So, thank you.
Thank you. Victoria Comack?
Good evening. I'm Victoria Cormack. I'm a gerontologist who's lived on the coast for 30 years. I'm very interested in supporting the Make It Main Street project to bring interdisciplinary activities to the coast. There's an extreme limit on that, and the children come to the children's area that has been provided and subsidized by grants, sometimes by the city, I guess, as well, and also that some of the artists have created demonstrations so that people in the community can do art projects with their family members, older adults, and at home and through the holidays. There's not enough of this sort of activity. So I would advocate that you please allow the barrier to be put up on Kelly and allow people to walk on the first Thursday night of each month and enjoy Make It Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. Were there any questions from council on this?
Is the barrier an issue, or are we not doing the barrier? I don't know the details on that.
Can't hear you.
Is the barrier an issue? I mean, are we not doing the barrier? Because I'm hearing 3 speakers in support.
No, we just have to finalize planning. So I'll be working with Aaron Tormey, who's the organizer of the event.
So you do expect that it will be happening?
It's possible we can make it happen. Yeah, I'm just working out the final details.
Thank you. Public forum is now
No,
closed.
we actually have 2 online speakers. We have 2 online speakers. We have Sid Young.
Apologies. I see we have.
It's Sid Young is the first
Sid-
one.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. I just wanted to mention, I had my hand raised earlier, but nobody saw it when the MCC person was speaking, and Patrick asked the question about the parking and the Harbor District has been proposing with the crosswalk going down Highway 1. There is going to be a LAFCO Municipal Services Review meeting tomorrow at Ray Mueller's office at 270 Capistrano Road, Suite 6 in Harbor Village. And the LAFCO is reviewing both the Harbor District and the Coastside Fire Protection District for their municipal services review. And the public is welcome. Thank you.
Thank you, appreciate it. Next speaker is Gabby Cressman.
「 Hello, do you hear me? My name is Gabi Cressman, and I live in Montera. I'm an artist and a jeweler, and I would like to speak out in support of Make It Main Street. As a local artist, it gives me the opportunity to show my art locally and to meet the community. And for the city, it attracts visitors, and the visitors can enjoy local art. It looks like a win-win for all sides. I hope we can continue Make It Main Street. Thank you.
Thank you. No more speakers? Okay. Public forum is now closed. Did council members have anything to pull from the consent calendar? Yeah. Would anyone like to make a motion regarding the consent calendar?
Sure, I move that we waive the reading of resolutions and ordinances, that we accept the mayor's list of updated city council representatives and designated assignments for 2025, that we adopt a resolution authorizing the examination of the sales, use, and transactions tax records for the city, that we accept the warrants list for the month of February 2025, that we approve a resolution to confirm receipt of 2024 general plan and housing element annual progress reports, and recommend the city council adopt a resolution confirming receipt of the APRs, that we adopt a resolution authorizing the city manager to finalize and execute a second amendment to the agreement with El Centro de Libertad for the CARES Community Responder Program at an additional cost not to exceed $111,796, extending the term through June 30th, 2025, that we accept an update on the previously approved budget amendment for capital improvement project number 0611, that is John L. Carter Park Improvements Project.
Second.
Let's take a roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson,
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast,
Yes.
Councilmember Penrose,
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ruddick,
Yes.
Mayor Brownstone.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Next, we're moving on to ordinances and public hearings. Item 2A, the 2025 California Department of Housing and Community Development Draft Housing Element Public Hearing. Is there any staff comments first?
Can I ask a question on procedure?
Will you be talking about the procedure back here as well? Or?
I'm just curious, are we going to have those, open the public hearing and then have a presentation by staff, and then is there questions by council, and then we hear public comment, and then do we deliberate? Is that how we do these hearings? No.
Yeah, it'll proceed like a typical business item, but there will be an official opening of the public hearing and closing of the public hearing.
Okay.
So we'll start with a staff presentation, questions from council, and then we'll go to public comment, then we'll close the public hearing and move to your discussion.
Okay.
Thank you.
Through the mayor, is it okay to begin the staff presentation?
Please, staff
Okay.
report, thanks.
Will do. Good evening, Mayor and City Council members. Mike Noche, Housing Programs Manager for the city. Happy to be here this evening to share updates in regards to the draft housing element. Tonight's public hearing, as identified in the staff report is to evaluate revisions to the fourth draft of the housing element. The current edits to the draft do not focus on Measure D or housing sites. Measure D, as I'll discuss further in the presentation, and we have a pending letter that is to be received from HCD and the Coastal Commission, and I'll go into those details. For the housing sites, HCD has essentially, to this point, as of their November 5th letter, signed off on our sites. So changes to those sites would essentially trigger or potentially trigger a re-review by HCD of the current sites that are in the housing element. So I wanted to clarify that. I also wanted to introduce Jeff Bradley from M Group, who is in the front row here, who has assisted the city in developing our housing element, himself and Asher Cohn, who has joined me on previous updates, who couldn't be here this evening, as well as our Community Development Director, Leslie Lako. So these first few slides I'm going to move through very expeditiously. They are an overview of what the majority of council or all of council may have seen in the past, but good updates just to hit on very quickly for the public who may not have followed this process to date. So the housing element is one of 7 elements that the city is required to have. The housing element is particularly unique in regards to it being required to be updated every 8 years. It's mandated by the state of California, and it is enforced by the California Department of Housing and Community Development. You will hear me reference that department of the state as HCD throughout the presentations and in responses. This is just a brief overview of what is included in our housing element. The housing plan itself is meant to be essentially measurable goals that the city is expected to reach through the planning period, which is 2023 to 2031. The fourth draft of the housing element, it is common to run through multiple drafts with HCD. They are scrutinizing jurisdictions' housing elements in this round or this cycle, which is cycle 6. Far more than in past cycles. There are 5 jurisdictions currently in San Mateo County that are out of compliance, including Half Moon Bay, Atherton, Pacifica, Portola Valley, and the County of San Mateo. We do have the fourth draft available on our website, as was mentioned in the staff report, and we do have a public comment period that has been open for the required 7 days from March 11th through today, the 18th. We welcome comments on the housing element, regardless of the 7-day required public comment period, but we are required by HCD to have an official public comment period listed for the public. That being said, the housing element in relation to the coastal zone, and this will be a repeating theme and has been, but our local coastal land use plan, which was certified by the Coastal Commission, really set the framework, and the housing element follows the framework of the LCLUP. It established a town center boundary for focused development, identified R2 to R3 sites. It also created the workforce housing overlay, which is how specific properties throughout the city could move forward with workforce housing development, 555 Kelly being one, as well as a potential, we're hoping to be re-engaged with the school district soon, but a potential teacher or workforce housing site at Hatch and the district office off of Kelly and Highway 1. The WHO is what makes that possible. And you saw a bit about water connection, so I won't go into detail there. Housing production is broken up into 3 categories. Pipeline projects are active applications that are in our pipeline, whether they've received, most of which would have received entitlements, but are active projects in our pipeline. The accessory dwelling units as well, ADUs, and housing opportunity sites. Our Regional Housing Needs Allocation, or RHNA, as it's referred to, is the number of units that the city is required to produce during this Cycle 6 housing element. It is weighted toward very low and low. And I'm happy to go back to this slide if it's of interest, but I will give you a snapshot of current production. We're in year 2 of 8, so this is just a snapshot that was included in our annual progress report that was on the consent calendar this evening. But these are the current numbers that I felt wanted to elevate for you all. To be expeditious, I won't spend too much time here, but wanted to give you a status update of where we are. Again, we're only in year 2 of 8, so there is additional progress that is potentially outlined in the opportunity sites, as well as pipeline and ADUs. There was a very robust community outreach process that was part of the housing element. This started back in 2021, I believe, if I'm not mistaken. That was before my time with the city, technically, but there was robust outreach at that time that I just wanted to highlight for anyone who hasn't been following along. So, coming to present day, or within the last few months, the most recent letter we've received was on our 3rd draft, which we sent to HCD back in September. So if you recall, summer of 2024, we reviewed our previous draft, received direction to submit to HCD. They had a 60-day window to return a response to the city, which we received on November 5th. Staff provided a table which broke down that letter and what it was asking for, which is attachment 5 of the staff report this evening. And that reflects all of HCD's requested revisions. So I'm just gonna highlight a few revisions. I'm happy to talk about any that are of interest. One of the revisions that was mentioned was to monitor RHNA progress. So roughly halfway through our cycle, or this cycle, would be to see where the city is at, what that benchmark is like, and then to commit to potential rezoning or other actions to help the city get closer to meeting its RHNA goal by the end of the cycle, is what HCD essentially requested we add. All of these are requests specific from HCD, some of which are government code, as you'll see in revision number 7, which the city is obligated, we're obligated to look at all of these, but some are related to recent government code that maybe we had missed in a previous draft, excuse me. They being HCD, requested that we remove garage requirements for multifamily, essentially. Staff recommended that we also include an analysis of where we could include incentives for still including a garage as a potential incentive, even though HCD has asked for us to remove that as a requirement. Revisions have included geographic targeting for home sharing programs. This came up at Planning Commission. Staff, of course, would be promoting services like HIP Housing's home share program throughout the city, but this is a specific HCD request that we look at targeting a geographic area. So it's pretty much north of where 92 meets Highway 1. That area of the city, less multi-family development in that part of the city. So as far as staff needing to call out a certain area, it felt like a good fit because it is mostly single-family homes in that area. With regards to revision number 21, we needed to add an additional site, at least 3 sites. We had listed 2 previously. However, with Stone Pine Cove, 489 Kelly Avenue Opportunity Site number 2, which is the school district, and then 940 Main Street, which is a potential development with mid-pen housing. Between those 3, that would meet this. So just an example of where we would meet the provisions of that request. The environmental review. So I believe last time we were at City Council, we had mentioned that we are very close in regards to finalizing the MND. That is still the case. We are in a very close area. We're going through review with the city attorney's office, and hoping to have, and we're working very closely with our consultant to finalize the MND. We are almost there and should be releasing it in the coming weeks, hopefully, at least within the next month or two at the latest. That being said, the reason why we had not released it is we wanted very clear guidance from HCD if they were in general acceptance of our sites in that last round. And they had no mention of any changes to our sites in this current, in their current letter, excuse me, their most recent letter of November 5th, 2024. So that being said, if we had seen some sort of changes to sites that they wanted us to provide, we would have been looking at potential changes to the MND. In regards to Measure D, I'm sure you saw in the staff report and are well aware that in the November 5th letter, it makes findings in regards to Measure D. And with regards, so we have not received a letter from HCD. It is pointing to a separate letter, a third letter that we would receive. We received one letter on November 5th, which was in regards to changes to the third draft of the housing element. We then received a second letter, which is in regards to ADU law, but also pointed to an additional letter. So we've received two letters as of November 2024. Both of those letters point to a third letter, which we have yet to receive. And that letter focuses on Measure D, the dwelling unit allocation system that the city has, which was approved by voters. That being said, HCD's findings are that we should cease immediately in using Measure D. Again, staff is not focusing on that for the purpose of the presentation this evening because we have not received that pending letter from HCD and the Coastal Commission. And I think it's pertinent to point out that these two state agencies don't always see eye to eye, and it puts the city right in the middle of these two very powerful state agencies. And we do our best to navigate that as staff in the city. I put on the slide here that it's essentially a known fact that these two agencies need to come together, and there's been recent legislation, which was SB 1077, which requires collaboration between these two agencies. So I think our calls for it being very unclear at the staff level and for jurisdictions is making its way to state lawmakers. So I felt it was pertinent to included that for the Planning Commission. I know I've referenced the Planning Commission, but wanted to highlight that the Planning Commission reviewed everything that's in front of you this evening on February 11th. Did not have substantive changes to the current revisions, had some questions that we answered for them, and then did approve a resolution that recommends the City Council direct staff to submit the current draft of the housing element to HCD. And I put a note here that it will trigger an additional 60-day review, so it will put HCD back on the clock in regards to providing the city with guidance concurrent with us waiting for that pending third letter. And that is the recommendation. Not to be redundant, I will continue to move along, but that is the recommendation in front of you this evening, is what the Planning Commission also recommended and supported. With that, I welcome questions and feedback. Here I've listed what was on our 7-day public comment period, which is the housing element at hmbcity.com. Email, and staff does check this regularly. Always welcome questions there from the public. And all of our information, as well as the current draft, is always posted at hmbcity.com/housing element. So with that, I will return the meeting to the dais. Thank you.
Questions from council?
Thank you for the report. Just bear with me. I'm trying to catch up. This is, I'm one of two new council members. I do know there's been a planning director, an assistant city manager, and 2 other council members that are no longer part of this process that started this 4th cycle, or 6th cycle, right?
Correct. Correct, 6th cycle.
Yeah, and I'm trying to understand, so some of these questions may be, just bear with me on it. But you mentioned in your report that you're receiving more robust comments from HCD, or this one seemed to have more comments. Were you saying they're commenting on things you submitted previously that they didn't have comments, and now all of a sudden it's an issue now?
That's exactly correct, that HCD will bring up items that maybe weren't identified on previous reviews. And I believe it's related to HCD staff, either turnover or additional reviewers that they have attached to subsequent drafts that go through the review process with HCD. I've heard this from other jurisdictions, that something that was not identified by HCD in a previous review is then included in a future draft review.
There were 5 other, I think, jurisdictions that HCD hasn't approved their plan yet, right? Are they saying the same thing? Are you talking to hear the same?
That's correct. They've received that they needed to go through another round of review, so they are still either in review. I mean, I should clarify, not that I want to call out other jurisdictions, but one jurisdiction was in compliance and certified, and then was decertified because I believe they didn't meet rezoning requirements. So, so there is precedent for being decertified.
Okay. And then the report mentions loss of access to grants, which some other reports I thought actually there's loss of grants by not having this adopted. Do you know what access, what grants are you talking about that you might lose loss of access to?
I have a backup slide prepared. I didn't plan on focusing on it, but for council this evening that I can make sure is included in our record. But these are some of the grants that I've found that do require a certified housing element. So Sustainable Transportation Planning Grant, which is through Caltrans, an MTC, which is the Metropolitan Transportation Local District, MTC ABAG, and there's multiple HCD funding sources that require a certified housing element. There are other grants that I don't have listed here that will award points for a certified housing element. So you would be less competitive for grants without a certified housing element in those cases.
We wouldn't necessarily lose anything we have now. It's something, there's a box we couldn't check, or we wouldn't get points applying for these type of grants you're showing on the screen.
The ones that the first 3 bullet points are, you have to have a certified housing element. The point I was making with the fourth bullet point is that some other grants, not these ones, incentivize having a certified housing element. So if you did check the box, you'd be rewarded additional points.
Oh, okay.
You're not necessarily penalized, but you're less competitive in that regard.
Okay, and then my last question right now is, so does the city control the housing sites? I mean, you mentioned OHCD didn't say anything about a housing site, but why would they necessarily? I mean, have they ever not included a housing site? I mean, it just seems to me, doesn't the city control what the housing sites should be?
Sure, I may call on Jeff here if that's okay with you in regards to what other jurisdictions have seen, because you'll have general knowledge of working with other jurisdictions. I will say in part of I know you had mentioned that we've seen some staff turnover of folks who were working on this early on. There were conversations that happened prior to me starting with the city in June of 2022, where there was some indication of owner support at some point in time, and I know there's been conversations since then in regards to where things stand on being included in an opportunity site. But that being said, there was some, in most cases, I would say there was some indication of potential development on all of the opportunity sites or some indication that it could be possible, and thus was included as an opportunity site. The opportunity sites are far more limited and in a best case scenario might develop. Obviously, in the time that we've been working on this over the last couple of years, we have seen some of those come to fruition, such as Stone Pine Cove at 880 Stone Pine, which will be 830 Stone Pine technically when it is built. So there are scenarios like that where we've seen opportunity sites move forward in the process, and that is the potential pathway there. And then there's the ask of HCD in this round of comments that we take a look at our RENA production roughly halfway through our cycle. So we're in year 2 currently. And even though we're not certified, we're still required to report out on our plans essentially to HCD on an annual basis. So those, and I'll look to Jeff in case I missed anything or there's something we should add to that point. But
I'm happy to jump in here too. I think, just to the base question, the opportunity sites is a list developed by city staff working with the Planning Commission and the City Council over kind of the process of developing this document. So HCD doesn't tell us what our opportunity sites are. We identify them based on a variety of criteria and ultimately put them in. But I think what Mike was alluding to was when we submit to HCD, that's one of the things they look at. And if they don't think an opportunity site is feasible or practical or realistic, they can give feedback on that. In this case, they did not.
And we can change sites anytime we want. I'm not saying we just change. I know it's more than just changing, but it's still the city controls the sites.
And I guess what I'll start with is that there will potentially be sites that are not identified as opportunity sites that could develop during this planning period. And we would still get credit in our RENA goals for those, even if they're not anywhere in the current housing element. And if it's okay, I'll have Jeff add to that in regards to the changing of sites. And I know there's scrutiny with HCD, which I kind of alluded to, but I'll let Jeff provide more detail if that's okay.
Thanks, Mike. Honorable Mayor, City Council, pleasure to be here. My name is Jeff Bradley. I'm a founding principal owner of a planning firm headquartered in Campbell in the South Bay with offices in Berkeley and Santa Rosa. And we work exclusively with Bay Area jurisdictions, cities and counties only. And I've been working on housing elements since 1999 on the third cycle. And back then we could honestly look the city council in the eye and say, hey, back up, this is just a planning exercise. We just have to show we have the right zoning and the right general plan, and it has to look good in the book. But those days are over, obviously, as you folks know. The last 20 years, last 10 years, we've seen so many housing-related laws where everything is in the statutes now. So just exactly what you were just talking about with Mike and the city manager about sites, that is probably the most highly regulated piece of all this. That criteria that the city manager referred to is exhaustive. Covers everything from size, location, presence of utilities, environmental problems, pollution, a fair housing considerations in terms of having a distribution of housing in different areas to break down racial patterns of discrimination brought upon through standard real estate practices and land use planning practices over the last 50 years. And so while HCD has given no corrective comments on the sites, that's a very good thing, but it doesn't mean they're not looking at it. And the sites list, the opportunity housing sites list, in my view, is really the core of the housing element. There's a lot of policy stuff going on, which is all good. But the RENA, meeting your housing production, boils down to the land that you have to offer for this. And so at this point in the process, you would not want to think about starting to change your sites. Once you have certification, once the city council adopts the document and ACD certifies it, then you can consider changes. You can change your general plan 4 times a year. Housing element, obviously, is part of the general plan. I'm not suggesting you change it that frequently, but that's a much better situation to be in, to have a vested, certified housing element in your pocket and consider alternatives rather than right here so close to the finish line to think about altering the site's strategy or composition. So I hope that's helpful.
Yes. So what you're saying is, and obviously it's the city, so it's ultimately the city's decision, you know. So you're saying if the city would try to change a site now, and just, I'm going to throw out, just for instance, just to say it was everything else was fine but 1 or 2 sites, moving forward, knowing there's an MND, yet, you know, your environmental, you'd have to do on those new sites, and they'd have constraints, right? That's what everybody's looking at. That would stop everything? I mean, is that what you're saying? Then it would have to go through a whole new review again? So that's why you suggest, if there was any concern to change a site, to do it after an element's been adopted.
Yes, sir. It would still require ACD review, but the review would be much more limited and focused to what any changes that the city was pursuing. Whereas now, when we have an uncertified housing element, like Mike talked about, it's like going in for a plan check on your house remodel, and the plans examiner starts picking out things that you thought were settled and starts adding them to the list of corrections. The same thing can happen either with the same reviewer or a different reviewer, or the same reviewer with a different supervisor. And ACD is subject to different forces and pressures in Sacramento. And so last month, they might have been focusing on fair housing issues, and this month, they may be focused on something else. And so you have to kind of manage your exposure to that.
Oops, thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay, we will now move on to taking public comments. Again, each speaker will have 3 minutes. There'll be a 2.5-minute warning and then a final close to the comment period for that person. Public hearing is now open. First speaker is Father Jose Corral.
Dear council members, I am Father Jose Corral, pastor of Our Lady of the Pillar Church. Our Lady of the Pillar falls under the direction of the Archdiocese of San Francisco and its Archbishop, Most Reverend Salvatore Cordileone. This mission of the church and the priests at Our Lady of the Pillar is a support to the spiritual growth of our parishioners, their children, and the children of the greater community of our parish. I have submitted multiple letters to the city indicating that our intentions for the vacant land owned by the church is to further Catholic education, not housing. The fee owner of the property has submitted a letter indicating the same. I am here in person to re-emphasize our position. we are asking the city of Half Moon Bay to remove the private property listed as Site 3 from the housing element. Thank you.
Thank you. Our next speaker is Juliet Kulda.
Good evening, council members. Juliet Kulda, local business owner, homeowner, and parish parishioner at our neighboring property here, Our Lady of the Pillar Parish. I'm here tonight on behalf of a parishioner. I'm here to once again ask that you remove Our Lady of the Pillars Church property from the recommended sites for the housing element. While we are so close to the finish line, if you may remember back on August 7th, 31 weeks ago, this room was standing room only. It's been 31 weeks, standing room only. We had approximately 60 parishioners, including students from our school, here in uniform in the front row that waited patiently for 3 to 4 hours to speak. All pleaded that you remove our property. We also had approximately 800 signatures that were acquired within just a few days. If you would like a refresher on some of the comments, I have a 7-minute montage that I put together on my YouTube channel, social media, and Facebook and Nextdoor. This is not your property, many of them said. It's not your opportunity. It's private property. We want to build our school there. We've already submitted plans. Preliminary plans have been submitted. There are other options outside of the 1.5 acre right here that would be a little crammed for something like this. For example, the 35 acres owned by City of Half Moon Bay already, that's walking distance from here. If we can't find 1 acre or 2 acres there, have a nice big area for everybody to play and park. We've written letters. We stand together as a community. You're in voted positions to represent the best interests of our community, and I thank you. I would just like to ask you now, what is the purpose of allowing public comment if you do not listen? Thank you.
Thank you. Next speaker is Derek Kolda.
Hello, I'm Derek Kulda. I'm a parishioner, also a board member of Our Lady of the Pillar Academy, and a local business owner. And congratulations to Mr. Nagas and Johnson for winning the vote and the confidence of your constituents in this new office of yours. So tonight the staff is going to be asking you to approve this resolution, and I'm going to ask you to vote no and to not approve it. This is another plea after a long string of communication since 2021 to the city staff and city council of the parish's intentions to use the land for a school, requesting again that the city remove the site from the housing element before approving it. Just tonight, Mr. Noche mentioned robust outreach, but it seems from my perspective that the feedback isn't heard. I want you to know that city staff has, in my opinion, artfully and materially mischaracterized the history of discussions around this issue in previous drafts of the housing element, creating a hollow perception of an openness from the parish for this housing opportunity. But the parish has made itself abundantly clear. At the August 7th City Council meeting, I relayed to the city several communications, written and verbal, since 2021 of the parish clearly rejecting the city's advances. I submitted a letter from the Archbishop supporting our pastor in using the land for the school. I submitted a letter from John Christian, the executive director of the entity that holds the title, affirming the parish's rejection of the city's continued advances. Our pastor, Father Jose, and as Juliet said, all the parishioners, and the petition was sent to you, pleading, asking you to remove our property. On November 5th, 2024, our attorney sent a letter to the HTD and to the city outlining the city's continued advances in the face of a long string of uncontradicted evidence that the owner is unalterably opposed to your characterization of the church property as the city's housing opportunity. Even worse, I've heard that since this November letter, staff continues in its mischaracterization of Executive Director John Christian's so-called openness in 2018. Just as Mike said tonight, he had heard before he started here in 2022 that there was some openness. I just spoke to John Christian a few hours ago in which he confirmed the Archdiocese's firm resolve in support of the parish's wishes and expressed his disappointment in the city's dogged pursuit of the parish land for its housing opportunities. It's like a boy challenged by his buddies to get the girl, then fails miserably, and yet he continues his insensitive and harassing advances in the face of her unmistakable refusals, as he is determined to win the praise of his buddies. Almost done. In an email from the city manager not long ago, he wrote, based on the letter and all the feedback from that August meeting, he will include language to reflect the plans that the church has for the property. The resolution in the draft that you
Mr. Coulter, your time is up.
Okay. The resolution and draft you are about to vote on doesn't even mention anything about our refusal and requests to be removed. So please vote no. Have the church removed and replaced with suitable site, and then submit to the state. I would just ask you, who's more important, your constituents here or your buddies at the state?
Thank you. Our next speaker is Joaquin Jimenez.
Good evening once again. Mayor, council members, city staff, members of the public. I was not thinking about speaking on this item, but I just couldn't stay away. Talking about people that care. It's about, when we, by the way, I'm also a parishioner, Our Lady of the Pillar. I've been a parishioner for many years since I came to the States 37 years ago. And it is on the other side. There's a lot of people in our community, parishioners from Our Lady of the Pillar, that are in favor of building housing at that site. I remember December 2019, I went to visit Father Jose and mentioned to him about the possibility of building housing at that site, and he agreed. December 2019. Right after that, city staff, Jill Ickes, she went and met with Father Jose, where Father Jose agreed to build housing on that site. I am Catholic. I grew up Catholic. And I'm going to have to say that lately I've been embarrassed to say that I'm Catholic because it was going on in our community. I want the new council members to actually understand what would happen. This is a question for you to actually research or ask. What would happen if the city of Half Moon Bay doesn't meet the 480 units during this cycle? Just think about it. Ask questions, please. What would happen if we're not able to do it? We have other sites in Half Moon Bay. Those 35 acres that were talked about, wetlands, can build there. It is against, Mother Nature to build those sites. So I know we have to meet this cycle. We care, I care. That's why I'm saying right here. To make sure that, you see how many low-income and very low-income houses do we need? We need a lot. We need a lot, over 200. We barely made a scratch with 46 units. Yes, do the numbers. I know you have to make a decision, But I know if you're there, you're representing the community, not just the local church. You're representing a people that are not able to speak today. If you want signatures, I'd be happy to get you signatures to let you know how many people in our community need that site to be built for housing. Thank you. Joaquin Jimenez, Half Moon Bay.
Thank you, Joaquin. I think we have one online speaker. Ann Carlisle.
Sid, you can go ahead and unmute and speak.
Hi, I'm sorry. I was just going to mention, kind of follow up with what both of the Couldas had to say. So I attended that really long meeting, and it's true, there were a lot of people trying to speak, and unfortunately, the person chairing that meeting was kind of rude to a lot of them, and sounds like they weren't listened to. But I'll just reiterate what I said back at that time, and it's not a good look for you guys to try to take land from the church. So think about that when the 5 of you are voting. Thank you.
Thank you. I think that's the end of public comments. We are now closing public comment session. Council discussion? Or any other questions, council, first for staff or our guest expert here? No? Okay.
I have another question. Mike, you know, a lot of dates been thrown around here, you know, about these opportunity sites. First, it's an opportunity site. It's not a site designated to have housing built on it, correct?
It is designated as a location that is suitable for housing. It does not, and I'll make note that the site that was mentioned today, there's a section in the housing element on page 33. It is C33. We do mention that an owner is not obligated in any way to pursue housing on a site that is identified as an opportunity site. So the owner has sole control of the property. It is still outlined as a potential site that housing might be suitable.
And there could be other sites all over town.
Correct.
And then if we, you know, when would or when did or would or did staff, when somebody says, no, I'm not really interested, would staff try to find another site? I'm trying to wrap my head around this August, and then I see there was a June or July, the letters that came in from the church, and then the various hearings that were on it. Did staff even try to look for another site, or was it just said you couldn't do that? Or I'm trying to decide or understand if staff didn't search a site, is there a particular reason why, or why are we just animate leaving the church site in?
I'm happy to jump in on this, Mike. Sure. You know, as I mentioned earlier, the process of developing the opportunity sites took place over a very long period of time. It involved study sessions, council, planning commission, staff collaboration, public meetings, and the whole purpose of it is to identify the most suitable sites for potential housing development. As Mike said, it's not sites that we're condemning, we have control over. There's sites that provide an opportunity for the development of housing. By the time we reached those meetings you're discussing, we'd already submitted our housing element to HCD at least the first time. And as we've heard tonight, once you're in that process, it's unless HCD tells you to change it, it's not a good idea to change it. And these sites were selected because they provided that suitability, that opportunity. We haven't left sites out because, well, we've reached a certain threshold number, we're good. We picked the sites in Half Moon Bay that gave us the best opportunity to reach those RHNA numbers. So going out and looking for new sites, the opportunity is unlikely there because that analysis and that work has already been done.
I would suggest there's 2 shopping centers with stores threatening to shut down all the time. So to me, those were sites either missed or not included, but that's just me. I'm trying to catch up. Okay, thank you.
If you're talking about shopping centers, we don't know all the qualifications specifically. Well, let's ask. What would or wouldn't keep a shopping center from being included as a opportunity site?
I believe there are other jurisdictions, and I'll look to Jeff again if that's okay to provide his expertise on what other jurisdictions have done. Those can be a redevelopment site that could be included in a housing element. It was not part of that initial, or we did not have inclination that the current owners might be interested. So when that analysis was going on, there was probably purposeful, and I'm speaking for staff that no longer work for the city, but there was likely reason for why those sites were not included as opportunity sites. I can't speak for them, but I'd look to Jeff for just the question about whether shopping centers and locations such as that in other jurisdictions would be included, if I can hand it off to Jeff.
Thank you, Mike.
Specific parking lots too. I mean, I look at those large parking areas.
Sure. So when you're thinking about sites, there's basically 2 categories. There's vacant land, which is sort of the gold standard. And if it meets all the other requirements, that's sort of the preferred approach. And then obviously most cities in the Bay Area have run out of vacant land. So now you're into redevelopment sites, sometimes called underutilized sites. So properties that have improvements on them, but there's a technical analysis that ACD requires. The jurisdiction has to show that it's feasible to be redeveloped. And it's basically a financial argument. The land value is very high, the improvement value is very low, and you can create a metric for properties that fall into sort of the sweet spot of being sort of considered ripe for redevelopment from a developer perspective. And then that's sort of the technical aspects of it. And then you also are encouraged / required to also look for examples of things like that, sites like that have successfully redeveloped into mixed use or housing. And ideally it'd be in your own jurisdiction or in jurisdictions close by or jurisdictions a little further away but with similar characteristics. And so it's kind of building up a case of information that kind of supports the supposition of these developed sites being redeveloped into housing.
While you're up there, so it can be either public land or private land that we can that can be classified as a potential
Within
site.
the opportunity sites inventory?
Yeah.
Yes. This recent 6th cycle housing element, there's been a big movement, mostly from housing advocacy groups sort of pushing cities and counties to specifically looking at public land under the theory that a lot of existing 100% affordable housing projects are frequently built on surplus city land that has been provided by the city at little or no cost. Right. And so there's been a move to replicate that within the housing element framework.
And by putting something on listing something as an opportunity site, in no way means any kind of taking is intended or taking of the land to develop. It's just to, I thought, identify sites that could be, possible 10, 20, 30, 40 years ahead. It doesn't have to be that.
It's actually the opposite of a taking. So if you think, when we talk to the attorneys and they talk about property rights, they always talk about a bundle of rights, right? Things you can do with your property. And when jurisdictions restrict that and come in with different zoning standards, sometimes people argue, I've had a taking. You have to pay me money. That's in the Constitution, due process. In this case, we're actually adding a bundle, a stick to the bundle saying, okay, you can't have housing now because it's zoned for public use or commercial only. But when we add housing, that's actually adding a property right to the parcel.
So, in essence, I mean, all this work is an effort to get our housing element approved by HCD. You're recommending that once HCD has approved of a number of designated opportunities, it's not a great idea to go back and take it off the list because it would reignite a complete new look at the housing element. And I think as it's come up before, until our housing element gets approved, it can open us up to builder remedies issues where they can come in and, everyone in town always talks about, we don't want a builder just coming in and building these high rises. Getting the housing element approved means for at least 8 years that won't happen. So that's why there's a lot of effort to get it approved. And it to answer your question, that's why we didn't take it off. And it in no way means that somehow we have any intention of taking anybody's land that's on that list. So that's how I understand it. Any other comments or discussion?
I'm new to it, but I also heard about that meeting that Sid was talking about. I am concerned about the property rights for the church and them losing that, and I'm sure that's why they're here. Of course they're here, and I do remember that it was a packed house. I didn't watch the video, but I heard about it. But Jeff, if you were to put this into perspective, as you said, the owner has sole control of the property. You're just saying that it's going to add another benefit if they choose to take that benefit. Is that correct?
Correct.
Right, they're not obligated to do any kind of things other than what they want to do, for instance, the school. If they choose to do the school, that's their right. Is that correct?
I would defer to the city staff on that. There are some important details that need to be included if the city desires to protect the church's ability to continue as a church, to have options to add other uses to the property, such as a school. I'm assuming a private school. Can the church not only continue to operate, is it allowed to expand? Usually, in the Bay Area, the zoning changes that are put into effect are, not going to say liberal. I'm going to say they're flexible to not essentially rezone the property to only allow housing. Because once you do that, that does constitute, to some extent, a taking if someone who has a muffler shop now has a non-conforming property because the zoning was wholesale changed from commercial to housing. And then in the zoning world, that now becomes a legal non-conforming use. If it burns down, they may not be able to rebuild it. But in the Bay Area, the most common practice is like what I talked about before. The existing zoning stays intact. So if you have a church, it's in the appropriate zoning for that. There's allowances for private schools. This is an additional use that could be allowed alongside all those other things.
But, well, I don't want to follow up on Patrick, but being on an opportunity site list does not in any way inhibit a church, does not in any way, that stuff you just said is
Absolutely.
Other stuff, but it doesn't inhibit the church's right to build a private parochial school on that land, correct?
Correct.
Thanks.
Assuming the city makes that decision consistently down the line at the general plan level and at the zoning level.
Right, but that's separate from being declared. an
Mr. Mayor, I
opportunity
think just to really boil it down to simply including any property on the opportunity sites list makes no change to their property rights or their ability to develop. So whatever property rights and development rights the Our Lady of the Pillar Parish has right now on that property, I think it's under public service is the name of that designation, will not be changed by this. And to Mike's point, and there was a question about a reference, we've added an entire paragraph to the draft housing element that talks about the concept of a K through 8 school, and that's what the focus of the owner is, and that the owner is not obligated in any way to pursue housing on the site. It goes back to that fundamental question. Inclusion on this list is just, we're identifying properties where housing could be possible. That's it. It doesn't change rights, abilities to develop. Whatever rights that exist now will continue to exist after the housing element has been included. So I know that there's this fear that we're overreaching, that we're stealing property, we're trying to take property that's not ours. That's a mischaracterization of this process. I understand why the fear is there, but that is not what is happening here. And that's why we continue to pursue, at this point, inclusion of these properties on this list, because, again, we're only identifying properties that are suitable for housing in production of housing, not properties that we have any control over creating that
Matthew,
housing.
for the clarifications, would anyone like to make a motion?
I will. I feel comfortable that the church's property rights are protected. I don't see any residual issue there. So I'm going to make a motion to approve a resolution, attachment 1, directing staff to submit the revised draft housing element to HCD, independent of a pending decision about Measure D from HCD and the California Coastal Commission.
Second. Do we have a roll call?
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
No.
Councilmember Penrose?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Reddick?
Yes.
Mayor Brownstone?
Yes.
Motion carries.
You up for a quick break? Okay. So take a 5-minute break. We are taking a 5-minute break. Thank you. Going to reconvene. All right, we're back in session. And our next item is 3A, which is appointment, am I in the right order here? Yeah.
Yes.
Item 3A, appointment of another youth member to the Parks and Recreation Commission. We can have do we need a staff report?
I just have a little short intro, and Matthew has
Okay,
a little
great.
bit more.
Go ahead.
Okay. So, good evening, Council. My name is Maggie Rodriguez. I am the Assistant City Clerk here in Half Moon Bay. And tonight we bring before you item 3A regarding the appointment of another youth member to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And I just wanted to provide a little bit of background information. Back in August 28th, 2024, the Parks and Recreation Commission had asked City Council to they were seeking approval to add 2 youth representations to the commission. So then on October 1st, the council approved that by resolution, amending the bylaws, adding the 2 members, and that would bring the total of members to 7, and they would all be voting members. And then at our previous meeting on March 4th, we had 1 willing to serve applicant on file, and you appointed that person to the Parks and Recreation Commission. And since that time, we have received another application for the Parks and Recreation Commission. And this willing to serve form is from local high school student Caleb Eisen. And with that being said, Matthew is going to provide a little bit more detail before you have your discussion.
Thanks, Maggie. We're excited to have hopefully 2 members of the Rec Commission be youth and have a full commission. In this particular instance, we just wanted to provide some transparent context before you make a decision. Caleb Eisen is a junior at Half Moon Bay High School. He's very involved in the community. He's a great young man. He participated in the Future Leaders Civics Academy last year that we host for high school and middle school students. And he is interested in the commission somewhat because of his family. So in full transparency, his grandmother and his father are both commissioners on this commission. And so that would bring a total of 3 members of the family to this commission. We, of course, looked into this from a legal and conflict of interest standpoint. Our city attorney has assured us that there's no legal or conflict of interest issues. And because we'll have 7 members of the commission, the 3 of them would not make a majority, and so we don't have any Brown Act issues. So we are fully prepared to recommend moving forward with this tonight, but wanted full transparency for you, and we've talked with the family, know that we're having this discussion tonight, so we just didn't want to be accused of not making that fully transparent tonight. So. And yes, it's an advisory body, and so the decisions that are being made here are recommendations to the council. They don't have the authority to take any unilateral action on their own anyways.
But he will have voting right, voting.
All members of the commission, including the youth, will have voting rights to make those recommendations to the council. So with that, we'll turn it back over to you.
Appreciate the background. Council members have any more questions? Because I have a public comment if not.
No questions.
Okay. We have a public comment from Kristlyn of our Chamber of Commerce.
Hi, thank you very much. I am here as a citizen on this one, not representing the Chamber of Commerce. They have no opinion on this matter. However, as a citizen, I find this very inappropriate. No issues with the Eisen family in particular. I think this sets a very dangerous precedent on having 3 close family members on one council, whether it's advisory or not. You do and have said in the past that you take advisory councils very seriously. They've been appointed for a reason, and you take them as subject matter experts, and so to that they do have a power. Although they do not create the majority, if a meeting is full of all 7 commissioners, they do constitute the majority the second one of the other non-related commissioners are absent. So that means that they are able to sit around their dinner table and discuss matters, because you can't control it, and they could go into a meeting with an opinion, a joint opinion, and if somebody happens to be absent, they can outvote everybody else. And again, I think this sets a dangerous precedent for having a family be this much of a board. Thank you.
Well, I guess I have a curious question. If 3 members of a family speak around a dinner table, is that a Brown Act violation?
Where a body is 7 members, you could have 3 members speaking and it's not a quorum, and so that would not be a Brown Act violation.
Right.
Of course, the city council, you're 5 members,
what I
and
thought,
so
yeah.
3 of you
Just
spoke
wanted
around
to-
the dinner table, that would be a Brown Act violation.
Right. Okay. Any,
Yeah.
make a motion?
No, I want to ask Catherine to speak on some of the, one of the items that Chrislyn brought up. What if one of the members is absent, or 2 of the members are absent? There are only 5 members present to vote, and 3 of them happen to be Isons.
Yeah, you know, I would need to actually check their bylaws and see if they can make recommendations with only 3 votes. For the council and for the planning commission, I know that you can only make recommendations with 3 votes. So if there, for example, in the council, if there were 2 of you that were absent, and you need to approve an ordinance, for example, it would take all 3 of you to vote yes to approve it. In terms of how the Parks and Rec Commission works, as a practical matter, when they take, I don't sit with them, so I actually, I don't know, Matthew, if you have experience with, you actually sat with them and they've had absences, have they taken votes? And this, of course, also knew that we have 2 youth commissioners. So they used to be a 5-member body and would, I'm sure, make recommendations based on, you know, a majority of 3. So anyway, I think unless Matthew knows, I'd have to research that in their bylaws.
Yeah, I don't recall. I've read the bylaws more times than I would have liked to, but this was never an issue, and so I don't believe it gets into that level of detail, especially because it's an advisory commission.
Yeah, I would, I love the Eisen family, and I think they're valuable members of our community, and they really have contributed a lot. But I would like to table this and have it looked into a little bit further to make sure we're not doing something that is going to potentially cause discord or even legal issues. So I move that we hold off on this, continue it.
Yeah, I support that. Yeah, let's get some more in-depth opinion on that.
I agree also, and Kristen, thank you for bringing that up. That was good points.
We can, that to move.
No, because we're not going to continue it to a date certain. We'll just come back when we're ready with more information at the staff level.
Thank you. All right. Let's see, 3B has been pulled. So that brings us up to item 3C, funding to support remaining emergency housing needs for displaced farm workers. I have a staff report from Jaleesa, thanks.
Right, there we go. Good evening, Mayor, council members, community. We're here, Mike and I are here to talk to you about the remaining housing needs for our farm workers that were displaced as a result of the shooting. We wanted to just provide a little bit of context for our new council members. Following the shooting in January 2023, 19 households were displaced because the farms where they live became crime scenes. They were immediately brought to the IDS to the reunification center, and the county provided assistance and secured hotels for all the 19 households. After a couple of weeks, it started to wear off on the families, And luckily, city staff was connected to Airbnb.org, who provided housing for all the displaced households for about 30 days on the coast, free of no cost to anyone. It was a tremendous effort from city, county, and nonprofit staff to arrange move-ins for 19 households who were new to the Airbnb sort of system, understanding logistics in terms of when is garbage pickup, what do I need a code to enter the door, all of that stuff. Thanks to our nonprofit partners and the case managers that were working with us, we were able to move those 19 households fairly quickly to units where they had access to a kitchen, access to a washer, dryer, access to more space. As you can imagine, some of these families had little ones, and it was difficult to manage living in a hotel where you have access to just a bed and a shower and a restroom, right? So thanks to the city partnership with Airbnb.org, we housed our families for a little more than 30 days while we secured a longer-term solution for them. That led to the county of San Mateo to invest $1 million to secure housing for all these 19 households, in a partnership with Abode Services, who provides service to homeless populations trying to find housing options. And thanks to many local landlords and property owners, we were able to secure properties all along the coast from Half Moon Bay to Montera. And again, actually, I take it back, to Pacifica. One family moved to Pacifica. We were lucky enough, again, to move all of these 19 households into different locations. Thanks to, I do want to point out that a big support came from the Crescent family at Tabala House, and that was thanks to Mike and Jill Ikas, who made that connection. We were able to house, at the time, 6 households there, and so that was great for our community. Fast forward, the county funding ended, and the city took action and engaged with philanthropy partners in 2020, early 2024. And we secured $464,000. Sorry, let me go back to that slide. Yes, we secured $464,000 from different organizations: Silicon Valley Community Foundation, Grow Foundation, Sand Hill Foundation, support from COSI Hope, and the Latino Community Foundation. And thanks to our city council, we also received $300,000 from our Affordable Housing Fund to continue funding the housing for all the displaced households while Stone Pine Cove is completed. Like I mentioned earlier, the applications are now open, and we're expecting the development to be completed and inhabited in the summer of this year. I also want to point out that I think I mentioned it earlier, but application period for Stone Pine Cove closes on April 18th. And with that, what I'm trying to point is that this is going to move very fast, because we're expecting a completion in the summer. And so move-ins should happen rather quickly, and so hence the push on that end. We knew that we had secure funding through March 2025, so the funding that we have is exhausted as of this month, and we know that there's a little bit of a gap. We had anticipated that from our previous effort. We were hopeful last year and thought housing was going to be ready in the spring of this year. Unfortunately, that wasn't the case. We know that there was issues with construction and weather and whatnot. And so since last year, Mike and I started again earlier this year, we started engaging with philanthropy partners to seek other funding opportunities to continue housing our farm workers. And we made a couple successful connections. One of them is resulting in a promising $100,000 contribution from Sobrato Foundation. I do have to note that we have to follow their grant process, so we don't have confirmation yet. Again, it's very promising. We will probably know over the next month the result of that application. And that's why Mike and I are here today. We're asking City Council to continue providing that little gap in funding. Our shortage from now until July 2025 is about $300,000. And with the Sobrado investment, and we're hopeful that we can continue to provide housing and not displace any families again, and not have them, right now they're at risk of being homeless. And so if we're able to provide funding for them, we can continue negotiating with the landlords, which they have already been engaged with through a vote. And we are asking City Council to use funds from our Affordable Housing Fund. 150 would come immediately to support the housing. And with the investment from Sobrado, we're hoping that the 150,000 remaining are just there in case of emergency, and hope that we don't use it. But I do want to be transparent and let you know that's kind of our need right now. And so there's the request for council to approve, to let our city manager execute an amendment to the contract that we have with Abode to continue negotiating the leases and allow us to invest $150,000 with another $150,000 on contingency. And we're happy to take any questions.
Thank you, Julissa. Questions from council?
Thank you. Thank you very much. I was going to ask, so I think it was $760,000 for a year. I was trying to figure out if it was $300 a year, why we were doing $300 for a few months, but now I see it was actually $700. And what you're asking, just to get us, hopefully the summer, right?
Correct.
That this project should be completed.
Correct.
And it's kind of a gap. How many displaced, you said 19 households were displaced?
Correct. Yes.
Do you know how many were actually in the city limits? How many were the county, or?
It was a combination. I don't remember exactly, but I want to say it's probably about 30% that were within the county farm. Everybody else was in the larger farm that was within city limits. And I also want to point out, it's a total of 40 individuals of all ages.
Mm-hmm. And they have the first rights to the...
Correct. We have been, Mike and I have been working closely with the County of San Mateo Department of Housing and Office of Community Affairs to engage and do really targeted local outreach. And we have suggested that they reach out to our local nonprofits who are supporting the community in terms of the application process. Like I mentioned earlier, it's done online. And so some folks don't have necessarily the access to the digital connectivity. And so we have been working together with the county since December of last year on the outreach methods, on engaging with the community, and working on the preferences for the farm workers that were displaced. They have, and I'm happy to share more, there's different eligibility for Stone Pine. So 3 requirements. 1, you have to be a farm worker, you have to live and work in the county, and you have to be a first-time home buyer. However, after that, there's priority categories, and the first category is the one that moves you to the very top of the list is if you were displaced as of the shooting, you go to the very top of the list. The second one is if you were displaced as a result of the Farm Worker Housing Task Force that was implemented by the county, you go to the second tier. And the third tier is if you are a farm worker who is at risk of homelessness or displacement, you go to the third category.
Okay, and are you still trying to seek funding?
We continue to engage with multiple philanthropy agencies. We've engaged with Sandhill Foundation again, Latino Community, Bothine, and we're looking at every possible option. Also, I want to point out that we've looked at cost savings, trying to see if we can arrange some folks to move into different locations where a little bit more affordable. We have been successful in that.
Okay. And did you ask the county if they would donate any?
We did not ask the county. Again, their investment towards the housing and their contribution to the farm workers is Stone Pine. I think it's a bigger fish.
I'll say I did ask the county because it never hurts to ask.
Right,
But-
right. If you don't
but,
ask, you don't get.
Yeah,
So, I mean,
that was the response, is their focus is on the investment, the long-term investment, and that's been their stance since their initial $750,000 investment.
so we're anticipating, well, we're thinking maybe worse would be, or I shouldn't say worse, but actually 150,000 probably probable.
That's the hope. I couldn't commit to that,
Yeah, right,
that
right.
we would
I get
only
that.
use that. But that would be the hope, is that through the project getting finished, through some of these efficiencies that Jaleesa has mentioned, and through continued outreach, which will continue right to the end, of reaching out to these other agencies that can provide funding, that we minimize the actual investment. So what we're asking for tonight is a not to exceed, not freedom to go spend all the money, you know? So.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions?
So right now, currently, if I remember right, they're at Zambella House, is that correct?
I'll let
Yes,
Jaleesa
yeah.
answer the specifics on this.
We have a few folks that are staying at Zabala House. We have a few families staying in El Granada and a couple others in Moss Beach, Montera.
And then, so their first priority for these homes, is that correct?
Yes, correct.
And are they able to, and are those homes, they have to buy into these homes, or are they going to receive them, or?
I am happy to also explain a little bit more about the program, and I let the council know what we've heard from the county and what we've been hearing all along. So this is a purchase model program. All of the loans are 20 years, forgivable, at 0 interest and deferred payments. The farm workers that move into Stone Pine Cove will have to pay a lease to the county for the space of the unit, but the units themselves, they don't have to pay anything. And there's no down payment requirement as well.
So there really isn't any out of pocket. So once they qualify, which they do because they're first on the list, there's not going to be anything that holding them back to go to these places, which would mean, worst case scenario, stay in Zambella and we have to keep paying for the stay.
I would say that if any of these individuals opt not to participate in the Stone Pine Cove project, they would be on their own to figure out what they're going to do next. Because the whole purpose of this work that's been done to keep them housed over the last 2 years has been in anticipation of getting them moved into Stone Pine Cove. And there have been households of this displaced group that they didn't want to wait, and so they moved on to other places and have chosen a different path. But the commitment to support these families would not go beyond the opening of Stone Pine Cove.
So we grant, let's say that 150,000 and not to exceed 300,000. Is there going to be a meeting back, or we're going to see that in our budget that some of this money came back now, or we're going to see the money going out and coming back?
Yeah, we can commit to bringing something back, maybe with the budget hearings, and accounting of the Affordable Housing Fund. Mike, looks like Mike's got an idea.
Sorry, you were going there and I didn't mean to interrupt you. I apologize, Mr.
Great
City
minds
Manager.
that look alike also think alike, right?
Yes, my apologies. And I'm not wearing glasses today, but correct. I wanted to make the distinction that this Affordable Housing Fund is a special fund, and I know Matthew was going there, and I rudely flagged in, so I apologize for that. But as the Affordable Housing Fund is the source of the funds, it's a special fund. It's primarily the bulk of what is there was primarily from developer fees and lieu fees that came to the city, just over $2 million. We've received some additional earmarks that are in the fund, which is in the financial analysis in the report this evening. But the unearmarked funds that are in the account were essentially from the developer fees that came to the city. And staff and our finance staff, as well as myself, keep close tabs on what is earmarked in that fund, which is separate from the general fund, is all I was trying to say there.
Yeah.
So I think we'll come back with an accounting, once we've kind of closed things out, to talk about exactly how much was used versus how much money we raised. And yeah, I think that's an easy request to fulfill.
Because when I run a business and I'm looking at my because guys have credit cards, and I'm like, I look at everything, and when I see exact numbers, my dad taught me, exact numbers, you need to kind of be, how did you get there? You're guessing, you know, and you want to see what actually got used, itemized, and then what got back put in the account. And that's kind of what I'm asking. You know, I want to see what's going out and what came back and explained.
And Patrick, it's a lot easier with a earmarked special fund, like a housing fund, because it's not allowed to be used for any other purpose other than housing. So any money that's left over goes back in there. It doesn't get lost in the general fund, you know, account, so it's easier to track. So. Any other questions? If not, does anyone want to make a motion?
Mayor Brownstone, there are, I think, 3 comment cards right there. Should be in your area. Oh, you sent them back. I'll send them back. I took the others and put those there, so I think we, yeah.
Okay, I don't see 3 people here, but let's see what happens. Well, I have 3 cards here and 2 folks in the audience. So let's see what happens. Is Judith Guerrero here? Yay, first time, great.
It's only me. They had to go, they needed to go to work. But good evening, Mayor and council members and members of the public. I'm here to speak on behalf of this ask that the city is asking you. As an organization that has been part of these efforts since the beginning, I have seen the impact that having a dignified home has had in the farm workers. They get to come home, take off their shoes, rest, cook, take a shower, and not having to wait. As it was mentioned by staff, my organization has supported these efforts as much as we could. I wish I had more money to support. And as you heard, this is the final stretch. We had a meeting yesterday for the Stone Pine Cove project, and there's a lot of excitement. And what I will tell you is that this is probably the only opportunity that many of them are going to have to be homeowners in our community. So I hope that you will consider my thoughts and that you will support this ask of the city. Thank you.
Thank you, Judith. Okay, is Vicente Ciana here? Vicente Ciana, no. Is Uriel Hernandez Najera? No. Oh. So would anyone like to make a motion?
I move that we authorize the use of up to $300,000 from the city's Affordable Housing Fund to supplement private philanthropic donations to fund continued emergency housing support for farm worker households displaced by the mass shooting on January 23rd, 2023, and 2, authorizing the city manager to negotiate and execute an amendment to the funding agreement between the city and Abode Services to direct the use of additional affordable housing funds and memorialize each agency's commitment to supporting the farm workers until permanent housing solutions are developed.
I'll second.
Roll call, please.
Councilmember Johnson?
Yes.
Councilmember Nagengast?
Yes.
Councilmember Penrose?
Yes.
Vice Mayor Ruddick?
Yes.
Mayor Brownstone?
Yes.
Motion carries.
Okay, any commission committee updates?
None tonight from our city commissions.
Thank you. Any items for future discussion? Any city council reports?
I have a couple of things real quick. First, I'm meeting with the chair of the CTC, California Transportation Commission, next week. Kind of a tag along with Pacifica. They were having a meeting. Through the Peninsula Division League of Cities, I kind of mentioned some of our concerns with Caltrans and their relationship with the CTC, and So I got invited to the meeting, so I'm going to meet the chair and just try to, understand that process, understand that relationship between them and Caltrans, because they told our council one thing. I want to see what that really is, and then establish a relationship, Half Moon Bay and the coast, with the CTC. So that'll be next week, and I can report back once.
Thank you for doing that service. Anytime there can be clarification between two organization bodies, that's a service to the community, so thank you.
And just quickly, another item is that, we did our priority exercise, which isn't a budget exercise, and I've had a couple of folks come up to me and say something, well, you did your budget. Well, our priorities, obviously, that's why you do a priority exercise, because not everything's going to be able to be funded. And so that'll be next step of our process. Once we establish our priorities, then we'll go in our budget process. Again, I had a couple of folks come up to me and say, hey, you guys didn't do anything about the budget. I said, yeah, but that wasn't our task. That's coming.
One funny comment I'll make about that, if you read the San Mateo Journal, Daily Journal, they have a good political reporter, Ruth or something. According to her article, that's all we did was cover the issues of finance and budget. So it's always interesting when people kind of walk away from. So anyway.
I want to add to that, because I think the city manager made it very clear we made it kind of clear, core. That's kind of saying, in a way, that's what our focus is going to be on budgeting. Core means minimum. That's kind of like budgeting, but it was priorities.
Okay, thanks everyone. Thanks for folks who waited to speak. Greatly appreciated your participation. And this meeting is adjourned. Thank you.